I have to ask, like, so you kind of grew up in the church, or actually,
Yeah.
you said your parents were pastors, so you really grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And so, how's that? It's always interesting because it seems like the darkest people who always grow up in that, most of the time grow up in that. So how did that, transform? Is it just because you were around so much like tight religious
I, I
atmosphere that you just kind of maybe went against it a little bit, or just in a fun way?
Yeah, like I think at first, I think when I hit like, well, because I grew up in the church, so I didn't know anything outside of the church. Like I was born into the church,
Hmm.
and I think when I hit like maybe like 15 is when I started like questioning things and being like, oh, this doesn't make sense, or you know what I mean? Like, of
Hmm.
course, like those are the time your teenage years where you really start questioning everything in life. You know what I'm saying? So I think like it was a rebellious thing at first, where I was like, oh, fuck my parents, fuck God, like, like I want to wear
Right.
black every day. And I feel like at first it started like that was to like go against them and be rebellious. But eventually it was like, I don't know, like I guess it started like that, but it was never like intended like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I wasn't trying to be like so disrespectful and so hateful. It was just how I felt and how I acted, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's the church is a whole other monster in my opinion, you know what I mean? Like it's very different. Like when I would meet other pastors' kids, we call them PKs. When I would meet other PKs, like they would be in the same boat, the exact same boat as me, and they'd be like kind of not so much lost, just very questionative and wanting to. We just wanted more answers, you know what I mean? And sometimes rebelling can help. You know what I mean? Especially when
Oh
you're
yeah.
deep into the church for so long and it's all you know. I think that kind of like reset me and made me find like a new balance and actually helped me understand things better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I got that. I was kind of the same way. I didn't. I mean, I grew up in different churches. Like
Hmm.
my grandmother was Catholic, and we grew up in North Tulsa. I still live out here, and
Hmm.
so we had like the local church here, and it was all good. It was all good.
Hmm.
I know people hear tons of horrific stories about the Catholic Church, but
Right.
none of that happened. At least not to my recollection. But no, it was very family friendly, and it was like your local community kind of church. And then I ended up in a Baptist elementary school and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I got more. My parents just introduced me more to just here's the religions, you can choose which one you want. And a lot of
Yeah.
people grow up in that don't get that option. They're more like, no,
Right.
this is it. You will not believe in anything else but this. But it's I don't know if there's some point of guilt I have because I didn't choose any of them.
Right.
So,
That's
but
okay.
but as I got older, I went through my own like spiritual path that I just, this
Yeah.
is just my personal thing. I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't know if it's really a thing where, yeah, it's almost unintentional. I think it's just because you know our generation growing up that we get so that we become like I remember discovering the Faces of Death movie, and
Yeah.
then discuss and then and then I see the Street Fighter, the animated Street Fighter movie that was from Japan, and then I hear
Mhm.
Corn, and then I hear White Zombie, and then I go down the rabbit hole of even more heavier music, and then
Yeah.
yeah, then I get into Wu Tang and stuff like that. So it's just that I think my time period or that era that you just get into just a little bit more alternative, darker things, and then you get more information where you start kind of questioning what you were brought up on, and does it make sense to
Definitely.
you as an older age? And yeah, we just happen to just look just unintentionally more demonic. I don't know what to
Right.
say.
It's not a phase, mom.
Yeah. Right. All right, want to give a couple shout outs. We got Magic
Felt like